Hey, what's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and today we're going to rank the discography of French progressive death metal band Gojira. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Also stick around because I've got a whole playlist of these tier lists that you can check out. Alright, so lately I've been doing a lot of tier lists of bands with pretty big discographies, and this may end up being a shorter one. We just got 6 albums to talk about here, and the first 2 really are going to be kind of quick for me, because honestly, as far as Terra Incognita and The Link, just not a big fan. These albums are okay. They have moments on them. They're certainly like heavier too. They're like on the more just straight up death metal side of things, with the prog feeling like it's sort of almost an afterthought. But the production is murky and muddled, and the songwriting's just kind of clunky. And, you know, I've tried with these albums, but ultimately, like, they're kind of just D tier for me. And I know I may piss off some hardcore fans right off the bat with that one, but again, this is just my opinion. It's all subjective, and I want to really move into, though, the kind of triad of their best albums. And I think most people could at least agree on that these 2 are not as good as what is to come. If you do, let me know down in the comments. But let's get into From Mars to Sirius. Now, the fact that those 2 albums just aren't that impressive to me actually makes this album all the more impressive. This is just incredible stuff, and just packed to the gills, really. No pun intended, with amazing parts. This opener. Those squealy riffs that the band became just synonymous with. I love that riff. Such an amazing just opening riff and hook, and gets you sucked in. Great atmosphere. It's simple too, but just the way it's so well constructed, and yeah, just the leaps forward to this one is so incredible to me. You got songs like Backbone, some more conceptual album too, about this like planet that's dying and all this. Also, I got a kick lately. I reposted somebody else's meme from The Boys where it said Gojira fans be like, and it's got the deep on the whale. And it's like, yes, Gojira fans worship this album, and for good reason. Again, just packed with incredible moments. Still plenty heavy, but again, the prog becoming much more of a forefront aspect of the sound here. Another great riff here. The heaviest matter of the universe, some of the heaviest riffs in the universe. Just to get, ooh. Like, and there's not a lot of vocals on this song. You got that whole long intro, but it doesn't make a difference. Like, they've written the guitar parts and the drums just so impressively. More of those classic Gojira guitar slides that anytime I hear another band doing it now, I just call it like it's a Gojira riff. And those are like my all-time favorites, but there's plenty of other deeper cuts on here that are a plenty good time. You got Flying Whales for something a little bit softer in the beginning, more dynamic, and then builds up to this big mastodon-y sounding riff here. That's awesome. To the Wilderness, World to Come, you know, all that to say, S tier. Easily, no question, fantastic album. Let's keep going. All right, then we've got The Way of All Flesh in 2008, and this is the band's album about their own mortality and just death in general, and more great riffs. Another great opener here with Ouroboros, which is the term for basically like the snake eating itself. Very cool opening riff there. This more hammer-on pull-off kind of thing. Tapping. Again, this is just like Gojira, like you hear a Gojira riff and you immediately know who it is and you immediately think of them. They just really have a way with this kind of trademark sound that they've developed. Toxic Garbage Island. I love this more like mathy, technical track. Definitely one of my favorites they've written. It's more like kind of Meshuggah-y. And then it's got this more slowed down, kind of Tool sounding part. Very cool. Vacuity, another one of my favorites. This one more just methodical plotting, that boom, 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 with the bass and the snare and the bass drum. The way the vocals are written too. They've got a lot of just like versatility in how they can write their songs, and yet it always is unmistakably Gojira. And yeah, just another really great album. Other great songs on here. Randy Blythe actually makes an appearance on Adoration for None. That's him right there. So again, not afraid of doing some heavier stuff still. Another great album. Awesome moments, and you know, it's really close with From Mars to Sirius, but with so few albums on here, I wanted to just reserve that S tier for just one album, and I have to give it to Mars. And so The Way of All Flesh is going A tier. Let's go to 2012 with L'Enfant Sauvage. This is actually about the real life story of this boy who was found and was basically like feral. There's a book, I guess, of the same name. And again, kind of their interest in sort of the human condition and all that stuff. Another great opener. Explosia, well titled. Great harmonics there. More great slides. Slides, squeals, and harmonics. It wouldn't be a Gojira song without them. And then it opens up into this more expansive part here. I've heard some people say that they are not a huge fan of this album. They feel like they kind of dumbed things down and oversimplified it, but I just don't hear it. Like, I think this has some of their strongest songs. Love this riff too. So good. It's just powerful, and the atmosphere again, like, nothing is lost here. It's a more concise album. You take off the bonus tracks I have here, and this is like just like a 50-some minute album, and generally, I think that's the way to go. I as much as I love those other two albums, they are a little bloated in certain areas. But yeah, just the axe, another great, just kind of plotting, methodical track here. A great little melody to keep you anchored down into it. Just want to swing side to side, like it's infectious. Like, it gets under your skin, and you can't help but just move to this music. The Gift of Guilt, another personal favorite. This one has another cool kind of slower tapping riff. Builds into more classic slides. And you just hear the passion and the emotion, and just, oh, so good, so good. I don't understand how people could not like this album as much. And so, you know, I'd put it on A tier right along with The Way of All Flesh. Like, again, for me, like, these three albums are almost interchangeable, but From Mars to Sirius is just, it's got a legacy added onto it, and then the concept and just the overall flow just makes it barely edge out these other two. And then that brings us to Magma. And so you see, I don't even have the whole album in here because I'm not as big a fan of this album, but I don't think it's bad by any means. I get a kick out of, like, there's a whole like Magma apologist sect of the fan base. If you go into like the Gojira like Facebook groups and stuff, they're just posting memes about like, how can people hate this album? And they're just so offended, like literally not even just like upset, but offended if you don't like Magma. And it's like, people like what they like. And I get, you know, being one of them that's not as big a fan of this album, I get it. Because, yeah, I even tagged it. And this is what I said in my review when it came out, that, like, if this was a hard rock album, which it kind of is, if we're rating it as a hard rock album, it's one of the best hard rock albums of 2016. But if we're ranking it as a progressive death metal album or even a progressive metal album, it's much lower than that. Because it's so streamlined at this point. But that doesn't mean it's not without its strong points, and these three songs in particular. I don't know why they're so much quieter. Silvera, it's just packed with riffs. some proggy parts. I like that kind of like throat singing sound in the background. Like, there's still some technical elements. I like this part too. That vocal part is cool. Genocide. And then, of course, Stranded, the lead single. I remember they dropped this song, and even though I was surprised by it, I love that riff. Another just like classic Gojira riff. You could probably put this up in some of the best songs that they've written, but again, it's just like, it's a rock song. It's a very basic rock song, and so it's hard for me to put it alongside, you know, stuff like Flying Whales, and it's just not the same. Prey is good too. Prey is probably a little bit proggier than even those two tracks. Kind of more of a Tool sounding song. More great guitar riffs on here. So yeah, Magma, by no means a bad album, but it's just, it always cracks me up that even if you give mild criticism to something with certain people, they will just immediately jump down your throat. So speaking of which, you know, I'm going to put it at a B. I wouldn't even put it at a C. I think it's a solid album. It's just not on par with these other two. And I'm sure, though, there's going to be people that are going to hit that dislike button. They're just going to rage click it and write me some sort of comment about how I'm stupid and I'm not a true Gojira fan, because how dare I not put everything S tier? Because that wouldn't be boring to watch, right? So yeah, these are my Gojira rankings. As far as the new single, really enjoyed it. I feel like they kind of stepped up the prog elements again, at least kind of on par with L'Enfant Sauvage. And I think that these guys are really talented, and they've managed to, again, build that trademark sound, which I say is sort of all important. I can't say enough about that. There's so many bands out there that are very talented, that are great songwriters, that are great performers, but if you don't have that trademark quality that helps you really stand out, and ideally do what these guys have done, where you hear even like certain elements of riffs and you immediately know it's them, that's to me like the key to unlocking a much bigger success pool, so to speak. But let me know down in the comments again what you think. What are your rankings? I'll leave a link as always to this actual tier maker so that you can make and post your own. You can even go on our social media and post a picture, a snapshot of yours. All those are down in the description. And again, please do stick around, because I've got a whole playlist of these that I will also link. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.